Black woman shares meals with lonely old man unaware his son is a famous billionaire. The Baltimore evening was heavy with heat, the kind that made tempers short and patience thin. On a cracked sidewalk near a bus stop, Maya Williams stood frozen, her hands trembling around a warm Tupperware container. Beside her clung a frail old man, his grip desperate, as though she were the only anchor left in a storm. Then came the voice, sharp, cold, and full of fury. "You think you can kidnap my father and play angel? You piece of trash!" The words cut through the humid air like a blade. Maya blinked, startled. Before she could even speak, a tall man in a perfectly pressed suit stepped forward, his expression icy. Jordan Langston, billionaire, tech mogul, and apparently the son of the man she was holding. His eyes drilled into her as if she were a criminal caught red-handed. "Step away from him, now!" Maya lifted her arms slowly, palms out. "Wait, please. You don't understand. I found him 2 days ago. At a bus stop, he didn't even know his own name." Her explanation was cut short by a wild swing. Jordan's fist connected hard across her cheekbone. The crack echoed, and Maya stumbled to the ground, blood rising at the corner of her lip. A small crowd gasped, phones immediately flashing to record. The old man whimpered, "Don't hurt Maya. She helps me." But Jordan shouted over him, "Helped him? You mean held him hostage in your filthy apartment? What did you give him, drugs? You think you can trick me?" Maya pushed herself upright, dizzy and bruised. "No, I only fed him, kept him warm. He was lost. I helped him." Sirens wailed in the distance, and soon 3 police cars pulled up, surrounding the scene. Witnesses yelled over one another. "He assaulted her." "No, she kidnapped his father." The chaos thickened as officers struggled to separate fact from fury. Jordan, breathing hard, pointed at Maya. "Arrest her. She's been hiding him. He has Alzheimer's. She's lying." 2 officers twisted Maya's arms behind her back, snapping cold metal cuffs onto her wrists. Tears stung her eyes. "This is a mistake. I didn't do anything wrong." The frail man, Edward Langston, looked on helplessly, his voice trembling. Why is Maya crying?" But no one listened. 2 days earlier, everything had been different. Edward Langston had wandered barefoot through the rain after escaping the men who had taken him. He didn't know where he was or how to get home. At a bus stop, soaked and trembling, he whispered only one word: "Jordan." It was then Maya, returning from a late shift, noticed him. Most people would have crossed the street, but she crouched beside him, wrapped him in her coat and brought him home. She made oatmeal, gave him dry clothes, and let him rest on her couch with her cat curled on his chest. She had no idea who he really was, no idea that helping a stranger would make her the enemy of a billionaire. Fluorescent lights buzzed faintly inside the police precinct. Maya sat on the hard metal bench of a holding cell, her lips swollen, her cheekbone aching, her pride shattered. Hours bled into days. No visitors, no phone calls. Headlines smeared her name across every news channel. "Stranger claims to rescue billionaire's father. Scammer or savior?" Who is Maya Williams? What we know about the woman behind the disappearance? Her landlord stopped answering her calls. Neighbors turned away when she walked past. Even the soup kitchen where she volunteered replaced her shift with someone else. Then, 3 days later, the cell door groaned open. "Williams!" a guard called. Maya lifted her head. A woman in a sleek black suit entered, carrying a manila envelope. "I'm Marissa Dean," she said, her tone brisk but kind. "Your friend Susan from Garden View called me. Said you once cared for her grandmother. She asked me to help you." Maya's throat tightened. Someone still remembered her. Marissa laid out her evidence with calm precision. "I pulled security footage from 3 cameras along East Madison. You weren't hiding Edward Langston. You were helping him. Look here." The screen lit up with grainy footage. Edward, barefoot, shivering under a flickering streetlight, sat slumped on a bench. Maya appeared, holding out a blanket and tea. No tricks, no manipulation, just kindness. Later that afternoon, the footage played again, this time in front of Jordan Langston, his legal team, and several reporters. On the screen, The truth spoke louder than accusations. Edward was lost, fragile, and Maya was simply there, helping. "You assaulted her," Marissa said sharply, turning to Jordan. "You called her trash and ruined her name in public. And what did she do? She kept your father alive." Jordan's face paled. His jaw tightened, but his voice faltered. I didn't know. I thought—" "She told you," Marissa cut in. "You just didn't listen." By evening, Maya was released. Outside the courthouse, Jordan waited in a tailored suit, holding a certified check that carried more zeros than Maya had ever seen. "I want to offer compensation," he said stiffly, avoiding her eyes. "For what I said. For what I did. I was wrong." Maya looked at the check. 7 figures. Life-changing. But then she looked back at him, lips still scabbed, heart still bruised. "No." Jordan blinked. "No. I didn't help your father for money, and I won't take your guilt check. You don't fix something like this with money, Mr. Langston. You fix it by learning to see people for who they are, not who you assume they must be." Her words landed heavy. Jordan opened his mouth, but no reply came. Maya turned and walked away, her shoulders high. For the first time since this nightmare began, she walked freely, not just from custody, but from the shame someone tried to pin on her. Behind her, Jordan Langston remained still and silent, the weight of his mistake settling in. 2 days earlier, the city of Baltimore had been soaked in rain. The sky cracked open with grey clouds that told everyone to stay indoors. But Maya Williams wasn't home. She was walking back from the community kitchen, grocery bags biting into her wrists, hoodie drenched under a broken umbrella. That was when she saw him. An old man sat hunched at a bus stop, no shoes on his feet, his socks torn and dripping. A ragged blanket was clutched around his thin shoulders like armor, and his lips moved in a constant whisper. "Jordan, Jordan, Jordan." Maya slowed, her instincts prickling. Most people would have crossed the street, kept walking, pretended he wasn't there. She almost did too. She had soup to make, bills to figure out, a dozen problems waiting at home, but something about the way he trembled stopped her. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked softly. No response. She crouched, her knees soaking in the rain. "Do you know where you are?" His eyes flicked up briefly, glassy and vacant. His voice cracked like dry wood. "Jordan, my boy." Maya's chest tightened. Whoever he wasn't just lost. He was gone, like pieces of him had been scattered and couldn't find their way back. "You're freezing," she murmured. "Come on, let's get you warm." When she touched his arm, he flinched, eyes wide with fear. She held her ground. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. My name's Maya. I live just 2 blocks away. I've got soup and a heater. You'll be safe." Something in her calm voice seemed to settle him. Slowly, painfully, he allowed her to help him up. Back at her small apartment, she gave him a towel, sweatpants from her late uncle, and a steaming bowl of lentil soup. He ate like he hadn't tasted food in days. "What's your name?" Maya asked gently. He paused, spoon halfway to his lips. His brow furrowed, then sagged. I don't know." "That's okay," she reassured him. "We'll figure it out." She started calling him Mr. E. It felt right, simple, dignified. He spent the night on her couch, her rescue cat curled up on his chest. In the middle of the night, he cried out in his sleep, flinching at sounds that weren't really there. Maya sat awake beside him, blanket tucked around his shoulders, keeping watch. The next morning, she made eggs and toast. Mr. E stared at the plate like it was treasure. He muttered fragments of memory. The lake house. Martha. Jordan hated fishing. None of it made sense, but Maya nodded anyway, treating his words as precious. Later, as she flipped through channels on her old TV, the news stopped her cold. Edward Langston, father of billionaire Jordan Langston, was reportedly abducted 3 nights ago. The photo on the screen nearly made her drop her spoon. It was him, Mr. E, in a tuxedo, not in her borrowed sweatpants. Maya froze, heart pounding. She had no idea she had been sheltering the father of one of the most powerful men in the country, and no idea that by helping him, she had just stepped into the center of a storm. At first, Maya thought about calling the police. It seemed like the obvious thing to do. But then she noticed the way Mr. E flinched when the phone rang, or the way he shrank back whenever someone knocked on the door. His fear wasn't just confusion. It was deep, lived in, and raw. So she waited. For 2 days, she cared for him. Soup, scrambled eggs, endless cups of tea. Sometimes he spoke about fragments of his life, burnt pancakes, a yellow dress, a lake house, but never full sentences, never a whole memory. Maya didn't press. She figured time would do more than questions could. But time ran out faster than she expected. One afternoon, she was returning from the community garden with a bag of tomatoes when a black SUV rolled to a stop outside her apartment. Doors opened, men in suits stepped out, cameras followed, police sirens wailed seconds later. And then, Jordan Langston himself emerged, every inch the billionaire in a pressed suit, eyes sharp, jaw set. Maya barely had time to drop the tomatoes before she was surrounded. Shouts filled the street. The moment spiraled fast, Jordan yelling, the crowd recording, Maya trying to explain, and then his fist crashing across her cheekbone. The next thing she knew, she was in cuffs. Days later, Maya sat in a hospital room, the swelling on her face just beginning to fade. Her lawyer friend Caleb, a steady man with quick eyes, sat beside her flipping through paperwork. "They dropped the charges," he said. "Because of the video?" she asked, her voice still hoarse. He nodded. "Store cameras, bus cameras, even a neighbor's doorbell cam. It proves you weren't anywhere near him when he was abducted. He must have escaped before the ransom call went out." Maya let out a shaky laugh. So all this, getting punched in the street, getting smeared in the news, it was all for nothing. Caleb's expression softened. "Not for nothing. They arrested 2 suspects this morning, former employees at a private care facility. Looks like they grabbed him during transport and planned the ransom. But Edward fought back, got loose, and ended up on that bus stop. You just happened to be the only one who stopped for him." Maya sighed bitterly. "Got me punched in the mouth for my trouble." Caleb gave her a long look. "Jordan wants to meet with you." "I don't care," Maya muttered. "He's offering compensation." Her laugh was short and dry. "I really don't care." Caleb studied her for a moment. "Are you sure you want to walk away from all that?" Maya turned toward the rain-spattered window, watching the city blur beyond the glass. "Tell him he can keep his money, his lawyers, and his cameras. I want him to live, knowing a stranger did more for his father in 2 days than he managed in 2 decades. Caleb didn't answer. He just sat quietly as Maya closed her eyes, the hum of rain filling the silence. For her, that was the only justice worth holding on to. The next morning, sunlight sliced through the blinds of Maya's tiny kitchen. For the first time in days, the rain had stopped. The city outside still carried yesterday's pain, but inside her apartment, things were quiet. Mr. E, Edward Langston, sat at the table wearing the same sweater she had loaned him, his hands wrapped around a chipped mug of chamomile tea as he stared out the window. "Sleep okay?" Maya asked, pouring herself a cup. He nodded, though his eyes were distant. "I dreamed of ducks on a lake. My boy used to feed them." Maya smiled softly. "That sounds peaceful." I remember pancakes. My wife, Martha, she used to burn them on purpose. Said it gave them character." Maya froze. It was the first time he had said a name. "Martha," she repeated quietly. He nodded again, eyes wet. She had laugh lines, deep ones. Her eyes disappeared when she smiled. "She's gone now. I wore the wrong tie to her funeral." The air grew heavy between them, 2 souls tied together by loss yet bound by kindness. Then came the knock at the door. Standing there was a woman in her 60s, professional but warm, a leather notebook in her hand. Caleb was beside her. "This is Dr. Peterson," he explained. "Memory specialist. Jordan asked her to come, no pressure." Maya hesitated, but Edward's eyes flickered with a strange recognition. "Do I know you?" he asked. "No," Dr. Peterson said gently, kneeling by him. "But I'd like to." The session lasted an hour. Maya sat nearby, listening as Edward's memories were coaxed out like fragile embers. His birthday, his high school mascot, the track team he once ran with. He even remembered buying Jordan his first computer at age 10, teaching him basic coding. He hated it, Edward chuckled faintly. Said it was boring until he made a game. Won the science fair with that one. I was so proud, never said it enough. When the doctor packed up, Maya asked quietly, "Is he getting better?" Dr. Peterson smiled. "Memories are like fireflies. They come and go. But he remembers the important things. That matters." Later that afternoon, a courier delivered a formal letter. The envelope bore the Langston Tech seal. "Dear Miss Williams, I owe you more than I can ever repay. What happened with my father revealed my failures, not only as a son but as a man who thought systems could replace humanity. You reminded me what I forgot: dignity. I know you don't want my money, but I want to offer you something else, a partnership. My foundation, Langston Futures, is launching a new initiative to support caregivers and community health workers. I want you to lead it, not out of pity, but because you saw what no one else did. You saved my father. Please consider it. Jordan Langston. Maya read the letter twice, then tucked it beneath her old radio, the one she used to play jazz while cooking for Edward. For the first time in a long while, she felt the shape of possibility pressing against her door. 3 days later, Maya stood in front of the Langston Foundation's sleek headquarters, glass and steel gleaming in the morning sun. The invitation in her bag still felt surreal. Langston Futures Community Summit, her name printed in gold lettering, as though she had always belonged here. Inside, she was ushered into a conference room where 6 people sat at a long oak table. At the head stood Jordan Langston. He didn't smile, didn't nod, only gestured to the empty seat across from him. "Thank you for coming," he said. Maya sat, spine straight, gaze steady. Around the table were activists, doctors, community leaders. Discussions began: food insecurity, elder neglect, lack of caregivers in poor neighborhoods. It wasn't performative charity, it was real work. And every time Maya spoke, Jordan listened. Not like a CEO waiting to correct her, but like a student learning from someone who lived the reality he had only read in reports. When the meeting ended, Jordan handed her a tablet. "Grant applications. I want you to help lead distribution." "Why me?" she asked. He hesitated. "Because you care. Because you already do the work. We're just catching up." Maya met his eyes. "You're not trying to fix me anymore." "No," he said softly. "I'm trying to fix myself." Weeks later, the initiative launched under a name Maya had chosen: the Lantern Project. "A lantern doesn't erase the night," she explained at the press release. "It helps you find your way through it." Funding poured in. Local partnerships grew. Maya became a voice on radio shows, town halls, even television. But she stayed grounded, still volunteering at the soup kitchen, still walking Edward through the park every morning. One afternoon, they stopped in front of a new mural painted on a brick wall. It showed Maya handing soup to Edward at the bus stop, the night their lives had first crossed. Edward studied it quietly. "I don't remember that moment," he admitted. "That's okay," Maya said gently. "I remember it for both of us." He squeezed her hand. Months later, the Langston Futures Gala filled the Walters Art Museum with gowns, tuxedos and champagne towers. Maya wore a simple navy dress, her mother's bracelet on her wrist. She felt out of place among the glitter, but unshaken. Jordan found her across the room. "You clean up well," he teased. She smirked. "And you still look like you're trying to sell me software." Their banter was light, but the night carried weight. When Edward was invited to speak, he rose slowly, voice steady. "I don't remember everything," he began, "but I remember her. She saw me when I couldn't see myself. She saved me, not with medicine, but with soup and silence." The room fell quiet, then erupted into applause. Maya stood on the edge of it all, watching. The city hadn't changed overnight. Greed still existed. Injustice still loomed. But something had shifted. A chair had been pulled out at the table. And this time, it had her name on it. Because dignity, she realized, wasn't something you gave away. It was something you returned, again and again.